Now, without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and share screen. Let me see how I can do that. Hang on just a sec. Here we go. Okay. Mickey, can you see that? Or John?
Yes.
Good. Okay, great. I'm going to go ahead and start the slideshow. So for anybody who just joined us, and Mickey or John, could you let people into the waiting room? For anybody who just joined us, tonight I really want to have a conversation on our economy, what works here, what doesn't work so well, ways we could build the economy with industries that would go parallel to the ones that we've already got. And I'm going to go ahead and start the slideshow.
Doesn't look as bad up here. It's down there.
Oh. Let me go ahead. Hey, John or Mickey, can you also maybe mute people in the background too? Thanks. So, percentage of the February labor force. February labor, your labor force is your people who are working. For San Juan County, it's about 8,400 people typically in February and March. And this shows the percentage of those people who filed for unemployment. A few of these are certainly part of those fraudulent claims that happened, but at the same time, there's also people who didn't file for unemployment. So currently we are the fourth most impacted county in the state in terms of unemployment claims. We have somewhere between 25 and 30. Some numbers I've seen are as high as 33% of our labor force that's unemployed currently, which is a really big number. This is a bigger number than San Juan County saw during the Great Depression, than most counties during the Great Depression. So this is a really impactful number that's a kind of a jaw dropper and something to think about as we roll forward. Our initial unemployment claims, this is unemployment claims over time, and a shout out to Mickey Von Dassel, who's on the call tonight, for doing these charts. This shows the initial closures in the second and third week of March, and the unemployment claims as they played out over the last 8 weeks or so. So it started to rise, then went back down, and then when self-employed became eligible, it started to rise again. We had a lot of business owners and contract workers, gig workers who filed for unemployment, which was something new. Unemployment previously had been open only to workers who had paid into the unemployment pool and the insurance pool. So this, I just have to move a box on my screen over. This shows kind of the industry trends over time. And there's a fairly large other box here and an undisclosed box. Some of that is because people didn't know what to click when they were filing for unemployment. Some of that is because people who were business owners didn't know exactly where to put themselves either, because they're not typically workers in any particular role or industry, so they didn't know what to put. But you can kind of see the same trend, a quick spike at the beginning of May into April. And you can also see construction. They were forced to stay home, and then they started to get back to work. And so that their unemployment numbers started going down and leveling off. Okay, this next chart shows employment covered by unemployment insurance in 2018. This doesn't include proprietors. So it shows 12% for construction. That other category is a mishmash of a bunch of different industries. We've got accommodations and dining and drinking, which is for the most part our hospitality industry. And you can see the continuing unemployment claims with a higher than expected construction percentage. And everything else is fairly close, although other is smaller. And then taxable retail sales by industry compared with those continuing unemployment claims. Taxable retail sales is the sales that are posted to the Department of Revenue as taxable. And it's kind of a good way to do a snapshot of the economy. So in terms of taxable retail sales, construction definitely leads all the industries because the cost of building a house is significant. and taxes are paid on that. In terms of jobs, our biggest sector would be hospitality. So talking about wages, San Juan County wages tend to be very low for a lot of different reasons. We've got a lot of industries that tend to pay lower wages. We're lower than the state. We're lower than the state less King. King really drives wage income in the state. So it's helpful to look at counties compared to the state without King County as the behemoth in the wage earning category. Oops, I'm going to go to a different slide deck. If I can sort this out. Hang on a sec. Stop share. And let me share with you something that our partners at ESD and Western Washington University brought at Datapalooza, which is an event we have every year in December. We may be Zooming it this year, but everybody's welcome to come to that. We typically have it on Orcas. I want to show you, and close your eyes while I scroll because this is going to be mighty painful to watch. I want to show you a few pages in this because I think it'll really spur some discussion. Let's get to page 6. Close your eyes for this. We tend to have an older population, as I think you know. We've got the second oldest population actually in the state. And it's the last time I looked, it was about 54 years old compared to counties like King. King is looking at about mid-30s, so we're about 20 years older. And I think that kind of shows. I think we all know that. Our employment is highly seasonal, so you've got the big burst in the summer, big drop off in the winter. I think you probably all know that too, but it's good to note it as we talk about our economy. This was a chart from December, and what we found was that average annual employment hadn't reached in San Juan County the pre-recession levels and was already slowing down by December. So we were already seeing layoffs and downsizing of businesses and not any continued growth after the last recession. And we were definitely hearing more of that in January and February. So we were already teetering on the edge of, and maybe teetering is a big word, but we were already moving into a quieter period before the current recession hit. So that's something to take note of also. And one more painfully hard to watch slide down to this. Our average worker in San Juan County earns wages of about $37,000. And that's of 2019, the second quarter. Annual average wages in the nation are about $57,000. So that's a pretty big differentiation, particularly considering how expensive the county is to live in. And so that's really what I want to talk about today is what can we grow in the community in parallel for the industries that we have that are strong and great and we rely on them, but what can we grow in parallel that will mitigate some of the seasonality and mitigate the fact that during downturns we tend to get walloped. So I'm going to go ahead and open up the conversation and I'm going to unmute everybody. So if you don't want to be muted, I think the Zoom interface will ask you if you want to be unmuted and just ignore it. If you accidentally press the button, you can quickly mute yourself if you don't want to talk. But I really want to open up the conversation to the community. And actually, I noticed Rick just joined the call. Rick Hughes, do you want to say a few words about the thoughts that the county's having about the various industries and resilience and things we can do in the future? Or am I putting you on the spot right after dinner, or maybe before dinner?
No, that's good. Thank you very much, Hillary. Rick Hughes, San Juan County, Orcas District 2. You know, I think we're very fortunate that Rock Island a few years ago implemented their, I call it the LTE internet mesh with fiber, basically meaning we have a sort of an interoperability around the entire county that allows more and more people who maybe have second homes or may consider not wanting to commute to Seattle anymore could live here and expand and do their activities or their job from their house. I think we're always looking for a better sustainable agricultural model as well. How can we produce more foods and byproducts of foods and processing of agricultural based products here? I'd also like to figure out a greener economy. The county's working with some folks, I think I mentioned this last time, on trying to find ways to implement deployment of renewable energy and greener technologies. I think we have a unique opportunity. Tourism will always be part of our community, but I think we have an opportunity to look for other ways to encourage, as Victoria's worked pretty hard, like on trades and construction, but are there greener jobs that the county can bring here? And I think we're looking at wanting to do that, but the LTE, or the high megs internet capacity, is really the tipping point for our community. And I think it's one of the few equalizers when it comes to income inequality, et cetera, because anyone can really do something or anything that they want to do from their home. And I think we've seen a lot of that lately. So, and I know the county is in the process right now of trying to figure out how to reinvent ourselves as well. Do we need as many buildings that we have? Can we take advantage of this work from home environment to create a more nimble and efficient and accessible county through technology? So I think technology is really going, I like to call it indoor technology, where we want to keep a beautiful outdoor environment and not interfere or trample on that whatsoever. But if we can create a workplace in your house, then I think that gives us a lot of opportunities to, if we can fill half of the 36% of our housing stock that is vacant year round, that would add a huge boost to our economy, excuse me, and could offset a requirement or a need on tourism. But I still think we need to be moving forward in a kind way and welcoming back as the governor moves us through this phasing, and be welcome, inclusive islanders, be kind, and treat people. We're very fortunate to live here and treat people as hosts, as we always have. So I don't know if that was what you were looking for, but I think there's a lot of new opportunities. I'd also like to see things in the marine trades. We are a community of islands. Could we find ways to sustainably build boats, or find ways to repair boats to fill some of the void in Seattle, where some of the Lake Union shops are shutting down? I don't know. I mean, again, I think it's really tied to the environment on the outside when it comes to agriculture, and how do we help farming be a real earnable family wage environment, and then, again, utilize technology. That was rambling. I am so sorry.
No, it was good. Thank you, Rick. It was great. And it's good to know that the county's thinking about the same things that we are at the EDC. So I'm not sure if I unmuted everybody, but here it goes again. We'll hope for the best. Oh, it says all participants are unmuted. If you don't want to be, mute yourself or ignore the unmute button. But I want to open this up because as we start this conversation, I want to hear from as many people as possible your hopes and dreams for what the economy could look like, and what really, potentially what parallel industries we could look at. Because the EDC tends to look long-term. So we started the trades initiative, started thinking about it about 5 years ago, in terms of getting people trained into higher wage jobs that already existed. And right now is a great time to think about what we could build over the next 3 to 5 years as well. So where do we go from here? What do you think would be great industries for us to look at? Anybody? Uh-oh. I'm going to call in Rick. Rick Hoffman, are you there? I want to hear what ports can do to kind of build the economy, because I know that's definitely a component of building the economy, or definitely a part of your mission.
It certainly is, and we at the Port of Lopez don't have a lot of suitable land to entertain manufacturing or other types of industries that might go on. Now we do some, but it's the demand that's part of that issue. So as far as transportation, logistics, and emergency services, that's kind of our mission right now, and that's what we're working hard to fulfill. And then we have a very stable, group of based pilots at Lopez, which brings money into the community. That brings, and the port itself hires local people to do work at the port. So we're trying to focus on that right now, especially with the money we got from the CARES grant. But it also occurs to me that, we're looking at what can we do, as far as manufacturing and ag and stuff for exports. But I think especially in Lopez, I think we do a great job of creating food and, meat and foodstuffs that are consumed on the island. We have one of our local fishermen that his goal is to sell all of his catch on the island and not have to take it off the island. So it's a little different approach to things, but to the extent we can be somewhat self-contained, I think that helps too. The port is ready to move as demand might show up, and that's about all we can say. And the rest of it, we're gonna focus on our core mission of logistics and transportation and our tenants and people that are working at the airport today.
Thank you, Rick. That's fantastic. And I know that the Port of Friday Harbor is also working on similar programs and thoughts, and ditto the Port of Orcas. And I think, frankly, all of the ports can be significant partners in anything that we decide to do as a community. Their mission statewide is to do economic development of all types. And as Rick said, Lopez is really rocking the local distribution thing. I do know that for example, your local farms are giving or selling food to the restaurants that are making food to give to the food banks because of a grant that was gotten, but I could see that completely continuing thereafter, keeping the farms going that way. Okay, well, I was hoping to have kind of an open discussion, but nobody wants to talk. Maybe we could do a quick update of what's new at San Juan County. Rick, are you okay with that?
Sure. Are you sure everyone wants to hear me talk?
Love hearing it talk, you bet.
Okay, so we submitted to phase 2 to the Secretary of Health on Friday. After our Board of Health received a letter from Dr. James, our health officer, recommending to move to phase 2. We submitted our application on Friday about 5 o'clock, and it was approved the next day by the Secretary of Health at 1:29. So we've moved into what we're calling a local soft opening, which allows basically almost all activities in small scales. So the biggest thing for me is that new construction is allowed to get going and retail shops are allowed to open. Same things apply if you are sick, stay home. If you're someone who meets the criteria of critical exposure, so age or any kind of serious medical health, please stay home. For the businesses, you need to be putting in plexiglass at each business has a different requirement from the state, but I assume most are going to be the same, which is plexiglass at your counter, clean and sanitize your counters often, masks for your employees. There's a mask requirement as well that went along with phase 2 that is asking business owners to enforce a mask ordinance. And again, the mask isn't for the person's safety, but for all the people around them. So the county is moving forward with that program and seeing how that's going to work in the community. Our first big test will be around June 8th, which is about 2 weeks after the order was allowed. It'll be a really good point to see if any cases have appeared once we've moved into phase 2. I'm really excited. Again, we have an interesting balance of keeping the community safe and healthy and not having our economy completely implode. So phase 2 allows us to do this locals only opening. And again, I mentioned this a few minutes ago, but I really encourage people to get that island spirit back out. And there's a lot of folks that are saying and doing some mean things to people, which I don't think is the county way. And so I encourage everyone to go out of their way to be nice to folks. Again, locals shouldn't be here. I mean, tourists shouldn't be here right now, but some of the people you see that you don't know, they may be second homeowners, they may be the children of people who live here. And so I just ask everyone to be respectful. The county's working on, we just announced furloughs for most of our employees for a day, a month, including council, which is about a 5% reduction in pay. We're trying to fill a big void in our sales tax collection that we anticipate to be between 2.2 and $3 million. We have some reserves, but we feel that this situation we're in could last 18 months or so. And so we really need to look to today to help plan and budget for tomorrow. So, I mean, the county is, I'm super optimistic. I think we'll get through this. We have incredibly resilient people. I've seen people create or be really, have really great ideas to take their businesses to new levels. A hotel in Orcas, they bought the business and then a week later they had to shut the business down and they started doing meal deliveries at home, and it was a really successful program. So, I think the ingenuity, we all need to figure out how we can do what we do different and smarter coming out of this. And again, like the county, like I mentioned about the county, we want to have the ability to, how do we find a way to have you come and have an appointment, like a reservation for the ferries, but to get your car tabs or to interact with the county? How can we use technology to allow people to, when you're inspecting for a permit, to actually have it printed out or email or airdropped to you right on site? So I think we as the county are going to be spending a lot of time with each of our departments and other elected officials on reinventing who the county is. And I think we all have an opportunity to find that silver lining in this interesting scenario. But I do believe we'll get through this. I think San Juan County is the safest county in the state of Washington. We have the strictest rules in the state of Washington, which means we probably have the strictest rules in the whole country, and arguably one of the more safest places. We have around 2,000 test kits that we're building up a stock and reserve. We have 10 nurses that have been trained full time. We're working on, the nurses are for contact tracing, so we're all ready to go. And if an outbreak happens, that we can surround it and tackle it and put it out. We're also looking at I like to call it the old marketing term, fish where the fish are, but asymptomatic testing of a certain group of people, business owners, frontline workers, first responders, emergency medical personnel, that we would test on a regular basis. Again, the concept is if we test everyone at the same time, it really gives us an idea at one point in time, but the next day it may not be as accurate. So looking at a group of people that are in constant contact with folks gives them an opportunity to have a better perspective of the community, both locals and visitors. Phase 3 is something that the state doesn't know what to do with yet. The minimum time for phase 3 that the state would allow a community to go through is probably going to be around June 20th. I don't know where that leaves us at this point, but I just want everyone to be really positive, and we will get through this all together. We're really strong people, and we have a great place to live. And I just ask for everyone to keep doing all the cool stuff and be a good neighbor and wash your hands and wear a mask. There we go. This is a rundown.
That's good.
On and on, but I'm sure these people.
Good. Well, it's good to get an update. We're all keenly interested in things that are happening and protections that are being taken.
And I'll answer questions if anyone has them.
Yes. Well, I just noticed that Natalie from Just Heavenly Fudge on Lopez has her hand up, and you should be able to unmute yourself, Natalie. Oh, you did?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hi.
Hi. Well, first of all, I'm not, we can't talk about what's going to happen in the future or what we want to do the business, because right now it's just figuring it all out now with the phase 2 and the opening. And I have been figured out how to do curbside ice cream scooping for the last 2 weeks. And we were very busy on Memorial Day. Actually looking at last year's figures, we were only down 25% in sales from the Saturday on Memorial Day. Of course, we did the farmer's market with fudge and ice cream cake this year. So my sales were including what we did at the store and what we did at the farmer's market. So I was quite surprised on that. So tomorrow is going to be my first day of having people come in the store. But it's just daunting, all the procedures and getting everything ready, and how many people can we have in the store, what will work and what won't work. But I'd like to hear from some of the other islands. Some of the Lopez people, maybe the businesses aren't quite ready to open, or we weren't prepared because all of a sudden it's like, oh, we're in phase 2 now. How do we, and then you start figuring it all out. But, I think it's just how to let all the people in the community and the businesses know that the stores can be open now. And, besides the essential ones that have been opened, and still seeing people not wearing masks, like letting people know when is that supposed to start, where people going into stores are supposed to be wearing a mask, and just letting the business owners know, or having the signage up around, or how the county can get that out. So I'd like to know how it went in like Friday Harbor or in East Sound, as to our businesses managing do we have very many people open right now?
So, I mean, if it's all right if I answer. So my wife and I we have 2 essential businesses on Orcas. So we run the pharmacy and a convenience store. So we've been open the whole time, but the procedures that we have is we have plexiglass at all of our interface points. As I mentioned, you spray it down. We have a sign on the front that says, if you don't feel comfortable coming in, call and we'll bring the product to you. And then we have a hand washing or a sanitization station and a mask, to offer masks for folks. And so the rule of thumb is about 25% of your capacity of your store is what you would probably want to have in any given time. I apologize, I don't know the size of your shop. And again, I'm sorry that we weren't expecting the state to give us approval in less than 24 hours. But at the same time, I've been working for 3 weeks to get us into phase 2. So just remember, if you're not ready to open, you don't have to. This is really just an opportunity for anyone who has been planning for it or thinking about it to have that opportunity to move forward. And I would recommend, like the Lower Tavern on Orcas, they've been open for pickup, but they've declined to open their restaurant because they still want to feel a little bit out how to do this. So there is not a right or wrong answer. We just felt we wanted to let people know as soon as we had the option. But I think about 25% of our shops on East Sound opened up.
Oh.
Or are in the process of opening up. I mean, it takes about a week from when you're allowed to kind of get all the stuff in place that you mentioned.
I know that Brendan Cowan, the Department of Emergency Management head, also did a walk around at Friday Harbor today, and he found, I think, like 30–40% that were open, some that had limited hours. There was only a couple that didn't know what to do with PPE. And he handed out the posters as well. And I think the posters are available at all the chambers now. So that's, if you don't have the mask posters, you can find them there.
And they're also on the county website. And so the mask order did come into effect as of Tuesday morning, if you're open. And but my suggestion is have a sign up in the front that says you need to wear a mask, and if you can, have a few masks to offer, and then ask someone politely once. And if they don't want to say it, you have a decision. Do you want to let them still stay in your store or ask them to leave? It's, I really don't want to put people in conflict, and that's not the intention of this. There was just a lot of business owners that wanted to be open, and this was one of the ways we felt we could get open safely.
Well, and I know what I've decided is, well, actually I had a sign made up that said, no shirt, no shoes, no mask, no entry, because we never let people in that come on up for the beach with bare feet in anyway. So, and then I did see the poster, but I guess, is the chamber going to be distributing them for us? The one with the ferry that says it's a requirement San Juan requires. So I've printed up that one. But I think the main thing is how to let everybody in the community know that the mask is now, the enforcement is now a go.
So one of the things that the county is doing, we should have the electronic reader boards up on each island. So the big signs that say road construction ahead, there should be digital platforms on Orcas, Lopez, and Friday Harbor. I think the one is in downtown Friday Harbor, and on, I think it's Ferry Road on Lopez is where that sign should be. So that's the start of it. We have tried to push things out with press releases. But any ideas on how to do it better, please let me know.
Well, even if we could get some of the TV stations, King 5 or somebody saying to people, I know we still have our stay home, but we know people are coming, or somehow do they have them on the mainland at Anacortes? Are they letting people know?
So we have, and thanks to Victoria and this a little bit too, Ferries is implementing signage on the boats in the terminal, and they're working on their audio recording when you call in. I'm not sure if it's on their website or not yet. We've thought about the media in Seattle, but there was a little bit of a concern that it would encourage people to come, and we're still following the governor's stay home, stay in place order. So we don't really want to, we want to think that this is locals only. And again, there's going to be some people here probably that aren't from the county. One more thing that's great about phase 2 is that you can move around the county and you can interact with 5 people. So that was part of the reason we also released it early, is that I figured there's a lot of people out there that would like to see some friends who haven't had a chance to see them.
Right. And what I've been doing, what I decided was for people, if they don't want to wear a mask in the store or can't wear a mask, that I'll offer them to take their order and bring it curbside, and then that won't make them feel bad. And it won't create a confrontation, because I say, okay, I'd be more than happy. I'll write up your order, take your credit card, and I'll bring it, go back in your car, and I'll bring it right to you. So I'm hoping that will help out with any of those situations.
Yeah, that's a great idea. The county is, I think all of us business owners have spent a lot of time being very good customer service reps. And this is just adding one more, let's say, challenge or opportunity to improve our customer service. And I think your idea is perfect.
Yeah, we're like the A&W drive-in. We just run the ice cream out to them.
Fantastic. Thank you, Natalie, and thank you, Rick. I'm going to go ahead and put my email address into the chat box, and we're going to be working over the next few months thinking about those industries that we could do, or those economy, and make it less cyclical. And I'm working to put together a committee to do that. So if this is a topic of interest to you, reports will certainly be included, the county, the town of Friday Harbor, and leadership people like that. And I want to talk to more than the people who are already talking to each other. So I would love to get community participation on this, from community foundations, family resource centers, to really talk about how we can improve things going forward. Because as Rick said, the one silver lining of this awful downturn is the fact that we have the opportunity to reimagine what is, and create something even better.
Hey, Victoria.
Hey, Annie, yeah.
Hey, back to your sort of overall arching issue on creating more economy. Having been a business owner here for the years, it's kind of a no-brainer to make money here in the summertime. I think one of the emphases for the county, or privately, or just sort of a general emphasis, are the things that happen off-season. The film festival, the woman that does the knit workshops all winter, workshops and various things that happen off-season, I think is a great way to encourage guests to come to the island, have a great experience, learn something, whatever it is. But it's the off-season business that I think is an area for huge growth.
Absolutely.
All right, that's my 2 cents.
That's good. Thank you. Can I put you on the list for the committee?
Possibly.
Okay, thanks. Okay, there's Elizabeth Minotti.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Elizabeth, we're having a little hard time hearing you. I think oh no. Oops, okay. Sorry, but it was,
How about I try again with a headset? Is that better?
there we go. That's awesome. Thank you.
Okay,
Oh,
talking into my computer microphone was not working.
that's okay. Thank you.
So my husband and I have been living on Orcas for the past 2 years. We have family here, so we've been coming to Orcas for a lot longer than that. And I'm a writer, and he's an entrepreneur. He has his own business that has an office in downtown East Sound, doing some electronic software, hardware work, and R&D, mostly with customers off island. And a lot of this talk about bringing in new businesses and new industries and whatnot is really interesting to both of us. I think that what we've seen with lots of folks that we know who may or may not be interested in coming to live in a place like Orcas, and may have the ability to do that because they can work remotely. I think a lot of the problems that we've seen stem from the lack of housing options on the islands. And I think that in order for there to be people coming to the islands to live here that can work remotely, either because they have their own business or because they can work for another company remotely, I really think we're going to have to do something additionally. Besides just having really fast internet, we're going to also have to have better policies about how we are how our housing is working in order to make sure that there's options for people for renting and buying places. We've been looking for 2 years and have found a really great rental, but are really, really struggling to find a place to buy. And I think that's a situation that I hear from lots of people that come up here, and I don't think we're the only ones in that.
Right, absolutely.
I think that stat about like the number of people who only live here seasonally or who have unoccupied housing up here, it's a problem. And I think we need to find a way to deal with that if we really want to have a more diverse economy up here besides just a tourism industry.
Absolutely. And so that 37%, would that be moving those 37%, the people who own those homes here? Would it be having different policies to make it harder to have a second home, or to make it maybe more expensive to have a second home tax-wise, or who knows what? There's a million different ways you could approach that, because that is an issue. We've got more second homes in San Juan County than anywhere else in the state. That's almost, I mean, you know, rounded up to 40, and that's kind of looking like almost half, which is, it makes for an interesting community, and one that puts pressure on the housing stock. Elizabeth, can I, will you reach out to me on my or my text, or sorry, geez, the email address there, because I would love to talk to you more about this.
Yeah, I will definitely send you an email and loop in my husband as well. I think it's gonna have to, there's gonna have to be something about making more incentive for people to be able to rent their places out full time. We got our rental because someone in the community felt very strongly about renting full time instead of renting vacation rental. But obviously you can make a lot more money, is my understanding, doing vacation rental than you can renting year round to somebody. So I feel like that's going to definitely be one aspect of it. And I think one other aspect is going to be something with, I obviously, I don't want to deny anybody having a second home. That's ridiculous. Like, we don't want to, but but we definitely need to figure out ways that we can get more people homes up here.
Right, absolutely. Okay, cool. Thank you, Elizabeth. And yes, please reach out, and we'll start to form a committee to really start talking about this. Okay. Does anybody else have any suggestions? As I said, I put my email address into the chat box, and I'll say it out loud too. It's victoria@sanjuansedc.org. San Juans is SANJUANS, EDC.org. As I mentioned before, we're a very small nonprofit that works on behalf of the business community and really the economic community of the San Juan Islands. And so this is part of our job too, to think about how we can mold. We've got the ability and the opportunity now to mold our economy a bit. So reach out if you want to continue the conversation. And if anybody has any more comments or questions, raise your hand now. Otherwise, I'm going to go ahead and end the call a little bit early, which hardly ever happens in meetings. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. We are going to be doing this every week. And next week, depending upon if we hear back from the schools and or kind of the health response team, it'll either be on health issues in San Juan County, so like the hospitals, etc., or it'll be on schools, an update on schools. So that'll be next Wednesday, also at 6 o'clock. Thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight. Rick, thank you so much for joining us tonight. It was great to get an update on everything that's happening at the county and all that you're hearing on the street. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night and hope to see you next week.